right. Today's conversation is for the women who feels like she's constantly on. In this case, myself, working, taking care of everyone, running from one thing to another, always thinking, always carrying something. And somewhere along the way, she stopped feeling connected to herself. Her nervous system is a little disconnected, most of the time exhausted, and the minds are constantly overloaded. And even when we finally slow down, we almost feel uncomfortable resting. I understand how hard it is to slow down. And
Okay.
today's conversation is really about that. It's about movement that heals instead of punishes. And it's about slowing down without guilt and reconnecting with yourself again. I'm very interested to listen to you. We are talking about DRU Yoga. It's meditation, energy, and what happens when women finally learn to listen to their bodies instead of constantly overriding them. Thank you so much for being here, Teri.
Um, Thank you so much, first of all, for inviting me onto your podcast. It's quite a pleasure to just be on this podcast with you. So, my name is Terry. I'm a certified Drew Yoga instructor and vitality coach. I have been teaching Drew Yoga since 2021, but I have been practicing it since about 2017, 2018. And it came to me in a time when I needed it most. And when I started deciding to put myself first and to love myself unconditionally. And by doing that, I started finding more ways in my life that it was reflecting to me, and so the opportunity to find Drew Yoga as a student for myself came to be. And then from there, I grew such a love for it, and I realized right off the bat how much it helped me in my everyday life. Like choosing things that I didn't realize came as a immediate response kind of thing, and just naturally being able to choose something that was actually easier and more beneficial. And it was just because there's a lot of neural connections that happen from practicing Drew Yoga. So many health things happened from it. But the main thing for me was that I am a very go, go, go kind of person, just as you have spoken about, Letitia. And so um, Drew Yoga really helped me to slow down, to find my stillness within, and to find my inner calm, my inner wisdom, and to trust in myself is the big thing, because a lot of times we look outward for things to help us and to figure out how to solve situations. And to me, Drew Yoga is something that just allows you to, in any time, in any situation, come within and find the internal wisdom that we have. So that's a little bit about me.
That's wonderful. I have more questions about you and how we're gonna reconnect. I'll dive in first to the first question. I want to connect Drew Yoga with the modern women who's on the run doing all the things and the burnout. What are you seeing in women right now that deeply concerns you? Women today have forgotten how to slow down.
Well, I would say a lot of women, mothers in general, is that they put themselves second. And it's because of the compassion and the love in their hearts, especially mothers. They're putting their children first, which is totally understandable. But in a society today, this day and age, we're kind of taught to move at this faster pace to try and get more things done in our lives. And that's all good in itself to be productive, but at the same time to start their day with tuning into who they want to be instead of letting the day choose for them who they're going to be. And so that's why I like to practice every morning a brief meditation to just decide who I want to be, taking the breath and just choosing this is who I am. I'm an empowered being and I create in my life. I know that may sound a little woo woo, but there are so many things that we create that we don't realize. And so um, that's the type of meditation that I like to practice in itself. And I think that a lot of women these days could really benefit, men and women, really, from it. But with women in itself, there's so many things to do. throughout their day. They're probably, prepping meals for kids or, maybe going to school, but also working at the same time and stuff. And so I think the true thing that could help with this is to remember that they can just take a simple breath and slow down that pace just from pausing and tuning into the breath. That
Something so important. Take a moment, think about your breath, that it can be done at no time. You don't need to reserve 40 minutes to recenter yourself and to truly find yourself. And I like how you like to start your day by showing up and putting your intentions in. And those are achievable goals. It's nothing crazy. I
Mhm,
like how the conversation is going because it's all achievable results, right?
mhm,
Connects with me because I do feel sometimes guilty for resting, guilty for taking the time. I'm going to learn how to meditate, but even to take the time to just pause.
mhm.
I think um, maybe DRU Yoga can help me with that. How can I connect, not feeling guilty and trying to experiment with yoga?
Yeah, I think it definitely could help with that. I would say that that guilt of doing something for you, it might be, a generational program in itself. It might be something that maybe we all feel that at times. I think it's natural. It's not necessarily what we need to feel, but just because you have a thought doesn't make it completely true. It doesn't mean that it has to be that you feel guilty for it. And so I think by allowing yourself more of those times where you take those pauses and you notice how you feel good, that feeling of guilt can fade away with time and with that regular routine of honoring yourself. And Drew Yoga really can help with that, in that Drew Yoga is a technique to release energy, release tension in the body, release stress. Um, in everyday life, we have things that happen, situations, circumstances, and that's going to continue to happen. But we have to find ways to process that energy. And so that's what Drew Yoga is really all about: is processing energy, emotions. Emotions are energy in motion. And so these gentle movements that Drew Yoga has in itself help to release energy that could potentially get stuck in areas of the body and eventually cause dis-ease, discomfort, injuries, things like that. And it's kind of like how, you've heard the term of like bottling your own. So bless you. So when a situation
Thank
happens
you.
and we don't you're welcome. When we don't process those situations, when we don't allow ourselves to truly feel what's happening and take those pauses for it and honor it, um, it just gets settled into places in the physical body. And so the movements, the breath, it's gentle twists, it's things that can actually help to breathe out that scenario, that situation. And it may seem like, we're just breathing, but there's an intention behind it that makes the movement and the breath very powerful. Yes, we can breathe naturally, because we have to survive, but when we put a deeper intention behind it, it gives it so much more. It gives it a deeper,
And you touch about stress and emotional overwhelmed. And when your students come to your class, are you able to see how some students might have that stress, that emotional overwhelming, emotional load, how it's stored in their bodies? And if it's so, how do you describe that person coming to your class?
Well, I mean, there's certain things that people say even that really paint a picture of what's going on. So, let's say they have tension in their shoulders. I ask them, well, do you feel like you have the weight of the world on your shoulders? Because that feeling is a real thing. And so it could cause tension headaches, tension into the neck, into the shoulders. And so we would work to release that shoulder girdle and release the neck area. And so, gentle twists, gentle release of energy through the breath can easily help that let go. And then also integration time. I call it integration time, but it's a pause in our sessions in itself, where we lay down and just breathe and just let whatever come up. Sometimes people will have tears or and not realize what it is in itself, and they just have to allow it. And that's where DRU Yoga is so special and it's so unique in comparison to other types of yoga because it can really be a way to release trauma in so many ways as well. Um, the twists and things, I always think of it like, if your spine was a wet towel and you were wringing it out of all the things that aren't serving you anymore, of like those self criticisms and feeling like you have to go so fast in this world. And if you could just wring all that out, and as you release that ringing feeling, you breathe in a refreshing breath of air that's not only air, but it's life force. It's this beautiful, whatever you need right now, you're breathing it into you. That in itself, just thinking about it, I can see it on your face that it's like so soothing to just imagine it without even physically doing it.
And I love this description. A lot of people look physically healthy from the outside and then completely disconnect from the internal side, right?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
based on your description, it seems like this is the part that Drew Yoga can be so different because it's the internal connection to your full body, mind, and soul.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
That's
it
great.
it takes time to get into those deeper, feelings in itself and that deeper wisdom. But the start of letting go of those things is really it's very powerful. And so it takes time to listen to our internal wisdom and allow that stillness to come in. But when we allow it, it's everything that we need really.
And, I'm gonna move forward to your story because I thought it was very interesting because you said that Drew Yoga found you. Do you mind sharing what was happening in your life at that time? Is
Yeah.
there a moment when your body or your life forced you to do something different that you were not expecting or to slow down? What happened?
Well, yeah, I felt like it was a time in my life where I was moving very fast. I had years of going to college and working full time and just feeling like I had to multitask through things. And when it found me, I had before that actually the decision to start to take care of myself on a deeper emotional level. And so, a lot of things that were maybe more spiritual started coming into my life. And that's when I started to meditate. And I felt like the meditation was my way of bringing love for myself in. There's a technique that I use called turning your love inward. And it's actually, it was created by Dr. Joe Dispenza, one of my greatest mentors. And it is a technique where you think about all the people that you love and if you could turn the love that you have for them into yourself. And it's really powerful. And so, after starting to do these kinds of techniques with meditation, creating kind of a formula of how can I elevate the emotions and paint a picture of who I really want to be, like I was saying. And by putting that signal out, so to speak, of like, this is who I want to be, this is what I want to improve in my life, I want to take the time for myself. I started to honor that by meditating every morning and every night. And as I started onto that path, it was like the perfect time, perfect place kind of thing. I don't think of coincidences as coincidences. I think that they are something that comes to you for a reason. And I had a friend that came to me and said, "Hey, I joined this yoga class. Would you like to come join me this week?" And I said, "Yes, I'd love to." And that's when I got to practice Drew Yoga. And the instructor, she had been teaching Drew Yoga for 20 years. And so she's a very talented instructor. And like I said before, after the first class, I felt this huge shift in me. And so I started practicing and coming to her class just twice a week. It wasn't even every day. But I started noticing the more that I would tune into these elevated emotions, tune into my meditations, and then use Drew Yoga as like a technique of like meditation with my eyes open, a manifesting kind of creativity kind of movement. It just blossomed and bloomed into more and more. And I practiced for quite a few years actually before the opportunity came where I call it the miracle that came during COVID was I had the opportunity to take my teacher training course, and DRU Yoga is actually based out of Snowdonia, Wales, and so it has a 7-hour difference of time versus here in Colorado. And so I was able to take those classes from the comfort of my home at 3 in the morning versus their time 7 hours later. And so that in itself also opened up a whole nother level of this bringing the stillness within. I was waking up before the sun would rise and, taking little breaks in my classes and enjoying the stillness of everyone sleeping while I was able to, it was like feeling the internal stillness growing in me and seeing it reflect out. And so I really felt like that was my calling. And now I see it as a beautiful gift and it's meant to be shared. So that's what I do with it. I just share it.
Well, beautiful. Thanks for sharing. I absolutely love that you said enjoying the stillness, getting up before the sun rising. It's just when I have the time, I truly enjoy stillness. There is something powerful about getting up before the sunrise. It's something beyond that I can explain, can feel it. I feel very empowered. Now, for someone who is listening to this and never heard about DRU Yoga, what is the real difference between the traditional yoga class?
Oh,
And what does the name DRU actually means?
so Drew in Sanskrit, it's a Sanskrit term which means star. And there is a ancient yogic story of a Drew star. And so it's basically a story about a young boy who is on a journey to try and find his truest self. And the Drew name in itself is finding your inner compass, finding your inner stillness. And from finding that stillness, your truest self will come. And so that's what he realizes in this story is that he's not seeking outward for this, he's looking within to find the true self. And so that's what Drew Yoga is really about, tuning into the inner stillness to find your empowered being, your authentic self. And Drew Yoga, like I said, it is not like any other type of yoga. And my classes in particular, I've been told, are just very different because um, I really work with this intention. And so I'll give you a little what a class would look like, and that might explain what Drew Yoga is. So in my classes, I start with what's called a moment of attunement. It's where we tune into a feeling, an emotion. I like to tune into gratitude or a love for life. Sometimes it's painting a picture of a moment that you felt a true love for life and reliving it because our mind and our body can't tell the difference if it happened before or if it's happening right now, if we can put ourselves back into it through visualization and our senses. So there's a lot of health benefits just from that in itself. And that moment of attunement is really just bringing that feeling forward so that we can carry it with us through the session and hopefully if you'd like carry it off the mat throughout your life. And that's kind of what my meditation practice is too. And so that moment of attunement, we shift into next activations, which is really mobility movements. It's everything stemming from the spine. It's warming up the body, but it's also shaking off things from the day. Like you mentioned before, that sometimes life can be stressful and things. And that's what I tend to do the most is like you look at animals in nature and they will shake off things like when it bothers them. Like I've seen a dog where it accidentally
Yeah.
runs into a glass window and it kind of gives a little shakeout from it. And it's just like releasing that in itself. And so that's what the activations are all about. But it's really a time to let your personality shine. And so I always say, if you have a dance move that's really been calling to you, you put it on the back burner for a few years, today is your day to say yes to that. And it's really allowing your inner child to come back again. We forget about that as being adults, as being, parents in itself. But by letting ourselves dance and play, it really breaks free a lot of that stuck emotion or stuck energy. And so it starts the whole process in itself. And then from there, we move into what's called an energy block release sequence. And that name really says it all. And I mentioned before that we can have energy blocked in our bodies in different areas. It could be in the heart, it could be in the digestive system, it could be all over anywhere. And so there's specific types of sequences that help to release, like, let's say there's the awaken the heart sequence. There's tuning into your inner wisdom, living with wisdom. There's all sorts of these sequences that are meant to help break free and empower you, remembering that you are this powerful true self. And from there, then we tend to lay down onto the mat. It's an integration time because there's a lot that's happening with that sequence. So it can be overwhelming. And so just releasing, surrendering to relax and relax into it is really a very powerful moment. So we breathe in that moment, let ourselves just enjoy whatever is coming, and then from there, usually this is where most yoga classes have what's called asanas or postures. This is where yoga really comes into place. So um, we'll do a movement such as, like a tree pose or a warrior pose. Most people are familiar with those, but the difference in Drew is that we flow in and out of a posture, almost making that one posture like a sequence in itself. And I like to think of it as a way for the body to get acquainted with where we're going and what we're doing. And so that gradual in and out is tuning into the breath, letting the breath make your pace for this flow, and allowing those gentle releases as well through those postures. And then again, another moment of pause or integration, usually pranayam or breath work, as most yogis call it, will come into place. So it could be humming, it could be box breathing, it could be, depending upon what the theme of the class is, bringing that deeper intention
Sure.
into the breath. And then from there, the class ends with a deep relaxation. And deep relaxation actually is more of a yoga nidra kind of style. So most people are familiar with that these days because there's a lot of health benefits that are coming from that. And actually 60% of the benefits of Drew yoga come from that deep relaxation. And it's not necessarily just laying down in shavasana like most yoga classes. It's actually an experience that I guide you through, going through stages of relaxing the body. And it's, tensing and relaxing certain muscle groups so that those muscles that maybe are holding on, maybe in your jaw or in your hips or, in your shoulders, by tensing and then releasing, it helps them to kind of melt free of that tension. And then there's relaxing the subtle body, which tends to be the mental body. And you and I have talked about that a bit, where the mind likes to just loop sometimes and chatter. And so I go through visualization as a technique to help the brain slow down and just not turn off, because the brain never turns off. It is an organ that just continues to go, but to slow that pace, to turn the volume down on the things that are maybe talking a lot, and allowing yourself to feel that true stillness that's still there. Even though the brain is still going, you finally can feel it. So that is what a
That's beautiful explained. It looks like I need to subscribe to your class. I myself could benefit from everything. I'm not a yoga person, but based on your description, it seems it's very liberating. It's allowing myself to release certain tensions, to let myself stop my brain in a sense. There are so many of Leticias out there who are on the go 24. I don't have time for this. We all should look into the Drew Yoga, including myself, and I'm giving you my word that I will. But I want to connect with the skepticals. I am one of them, but I am willing to give a try. People who immediately they hear the words energy, meditation, intentions. And I was one of them, guilty. I'm very transparent. They automatically says this is not for me. What do you say for people who feel so skeptical? I'm not even gonna try, or people who are intimidated by those words.
Well, I usually just tell people, like, "Hey, just come try it out and see what you think," and just bring that mystery of you never know what might happen in itself. But there's a lot of things that I can say to people and show them that, hey, this is not like any other yoga class, but also you're going to get a good workout from it still, but it's more a work within. And so the energy things can be kind of scary because, if there is something stuck, sometimes it's a little like you want to ignore it and continue to move away from it and avoid it in itself. So I can understand where that can feel almost vulnerable for someone. So usually, I just show people things like the activations and just show them how they can have fun and that it can just be a playful thing. And, a lot of times the people who have never taken a yoga class, they are the ones that truly click with it so easily because a lot of times when you've taken a yoga class already, you have this picture and this perspective of what it's going to be. And if you don't have any perspective or any, like, thought beforehand and you just come in like a blank slate, it's like you can explore and play and have fun. So that's where I think I would go with it more is just think of it like a childlike heart. Like when I was a kid, I used to ride my bike and I would see this hillside and I'd be like, what's on the other side of that hill? And it's kind of like the mystery and the adventure behind life. And so yeah, it's a yoga class, but there's adventure in it, and, just come play with us is usually what I say, and, sometimes people come, and in their right time, and it's right for them when they feel like it's right, they'll choose it when it's the right time. So, I always honor that too. That's what I would say to someone.
I will be there. Can you? Yes, I'll be there. I'm giving you my word. I'll find you.
Well, thank you.
You talk about energy block release.
Mhm.
What does that mean in simple language?
In simple language, well, I would say, a lot of times trauma is a great way to explain it in that, a traumatic experience, it's something that we don't want to go back to and we don't have to relive those things. But in itself, you may sense that, maybe since you had this stressful situation, maybe your stomach has felt like it's been in knots, or maybe you felt like your heart rate has just
Uh-huh.
picks up in similar kinds of situations. So, an energy block could feel just like that, and you can sense the release when, it feels like freedom in your body. That's the best way I could describe that. So, I hope that answers your question. It's kind of a you have to feel it to understand it, and so you almost have to.
I'm connecting again with the word liberation because I feel a
Mhm,
lot of us want to feel liberated somehow
mhm,
because lots of us never take a pause long enough to even listen to our bodies. To
mhm,
it's an
mhm,
opportunity to take this DRU yoga. I think the message is very clear. It's rewarding ourselves with those long pause by taking Drew class, not
mhm,
only for yoga purpose, not only for physical purpose, but truly reconnecting ourselves with our mind, spiritual. You talk about intentions and breathing, the connectivity with your inner. I said at the beginning that a lot of women are disconnected. Maybe that's wrong. I shouldn't say the word disconnected. May say they just need to find that time to reconnect. I don't feel myself disconnected with my body, but I feel myself struggling to find time to reconnect. Those are excellent reminders that there is time.
mhm,
It's just what is in your bucket as priorities, right?
mhm,
And then a lot of women are using movement almost as punishment. They want to burn calories, they want to fix themselves, they want to lose heart, they want to lose
mhm.
weight, they need to push harder. It is time for us to revisit that movement can become healing instead of
Yeah,
punishment. And that's
mhm,
the message that I'm getting from you, and based
yeah.
on our previous conversation. And what does healthy movement actually look like to you?
To me, I mean, I think that it is, I don't think we should punish ourselves in movement because I think it sends the wrong message to every cell in our body. That's my thought on it, is that we should be kind to ourselves. That's where my journey began, is how can I speak kinder to myself? And if I want to speak kinder to myself, I want to work out in a way that's kind to myself, but also I want longevity of life. And so for me, yes, I like to do things that are a little tough sometimes. Like I like to put a weighted pack on and ruck up a stairway and things like that. But to me, like the things that are the most rejuvenating for me are gentle movements that stem from the spine. So gentle twists, back and forth through the spine, spinal waves, moving the shoulder girdle where it's almost like you're, giving twists to your arms a bit, just kind of a movement like this, with the whole entirety of the arms, gentle movement that correlates with the pace of the breath. And when we notice that we start to move almost like the breath is moving you more than your arms are moving in themselves, it actually allows us to feel that slower pace. And so it can help us to come back into our everyday routines and see it's not necessary to go that fast of a pace because either way, we only have so many hours in the day. And as you and I have talked about before, it's like you can only get so many things done in your schedule. And so the thing is we have to allow ourselves if we want to improve our lives, we have to honor ourselves. And as moms too, this is one thing I also want to mention is that when we take a pause for ourselves, our kids notice it, the younger generations notice it and they
Mm-hmm.
see, "Oh, this actually really helped mom. So I wanna start incorporating that in my life." And then it actually brings a natural, it's a wave in itself into the next generations, which, you know, yes, this world is fast paced, but there are more and more people out there that are, focusing upon, no, I'm going to move in this slower pace. And so you're starting to see these people that are like kind of going out of the ordinary and choosing to live at the beat of their own drum, so to speak. And so I think it's a really empowering time right now that we live in because of things like that. And that's the power of being a
Mm-hmm.
parent is that we have so much that we mold into these next generations. And so I think by allowing ourselves the time to honor ourselves, they're going to see it and they're going to continue it and pass that on to their children as well.
Which is beautiful, right? Because we want to lead by example.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, w- there's so much to unpack here, but I know our time is limited. We talked about meditation practice, and you mentioned to me that you meditate twice a day. We all
Mhm.
know meditating is really good for you. What have you noticed since you start meditating that change in your life?
Well, you and I have talked a bit about like what it is that I focus upon with my meditation. So I'll kind of open that into discussion. So usually my mornings, I like to wake up before everyone else, just like I learned in my teacher training. Waking up before the sun and making that time for you allows, when kids are sleeping, when before the things have to be done, and so it's really a time that's just for me. It's honoring myself again, that self-love and care. And my morning routine with my meditation is tuning into who I want to be and remembering who I want to be. And knowing that every day is like a new chapter. It's like you could start a whole new life. You could be a whole new person every single day if you wanted to. But the whole key behind it is if you have a goal, if you have a vision of who you want to be, and you start your day with that, you can much easier stay into that state of mind throughout your day. And so that's really creating the life that you want to live. And so that's my favorite part of my morning is like this is where I get to choose who I am, and I get excited about it like a kid, and, there may be times throughout the day where you may fall from grace, so to speak, where it's like maybe you fell away from that state of mind a little bit. You got into traffic and something stressed you out or whatever. Those things naturally are going to occur in life. But the real question is, how will you respond to it? Are you going to immediately react, or are you going to take a pause and respond in a way that's from wisdom within? And that takes time, that takes practice to live that way. So that's why at the end of my day, I choose to end my day reviewing it in my meditation. So I go through it like through my eyes and through almost like I'm on a fly on the wall and observing what happened throughout the day. And if I feel like, I came out of my elevated emotional state of feeling the empowered being I am, the calm, wise person that I am, and trusting myself. And maybe I'm not saying that anger or frustration or any of those emotions are bad. They need to be processed. That's why I do DRU yoga in itself. They come up, but to take a look at it, to observe it in the moment and say, "Oh, I don't wanna I don't wanna go down this road. I wanna go down this one instead." So if, so to speak, you do go down the road you don't want to, you can review it in the night and not criticize yourself, not be harsh, but be kind to yourself. And also acknowledge the moments that are rewarding, where you truly did choose to be the person you wanted to be. So it's, honoring all of what happened in your day and really it's special, it's like every day is a whole chapter to your life. And so that's really the
Yeah.
reason why I
Yeah.
meditate is to
Your words. Uh, Let me repeat what you just have said. Every day is a new chapter in your life.
Mhm.
There is nothing more beautiful than so powerful. Every day, it's a beautiful chapter in your life. I love that. I'm going to use that. So, your final takeaway, I know we're running out of time, but if the woman who is listening to us right now who feels overwhelmed, anxious, um, constantly overstimulated, emotionally drained, disconnected to
Mhm.
herself, where should she begin?
Hmm. My first answer for that is back in nature, because that was always my teacher. I feel like when we take time to maybe take our shoes off and put our feet on the earth, or stand next to a tree, or even just observe the beautiful life that's in nature, there are so many things that it helps to regulate in our body. And it's almost like a surrender time. And that pause can just be standing in nature. You can hear birds chirping, and the color of the green grass and those things, they actually help to reset and regulate our nervous system. So that would be the first place I would tell someone, is because it's accessible to anyone, anywhere, even if they just look out a window and see these things, or listen to soothing sounds like a babbling brook recording or things like that. But the other thing that we always have with us is our breath. And so our breath is like, it can be like our best friend. It's always there for us. And so there's so many different ways that we can breathe to improve our lives. And it's almost another journey in itself, another exciting adventure of how could I breathe to
Yes.
help myself in this moment? So I think my favorite that I would give as a tip for, a mom or someone who's really stressed is humming, because you'll see it with kids on the spectrum actually, that when they're having an overwhelming moment, they naturally will hum. And the reason is because it actually has multiple things in the body that it regulates. But to start out, to just think about our left and right hemisphere of the brain. So let's say there's a stressful moment and it almost feels like a bunch of kids playing musical instruments all off cue and off beat, and it's very chaotic and feels like static. When we hum, it actually allows the left and the right hemisphere of the brain to talk to each other. So it's like creating from the noise a
Mm,
symphony, an orchestra where it all can work together better and more efficiently and happy and safe. And there's other things too. I mean, it connects through the whole body in itself, through the vagus nerve, which is the weaving, wandering nerve that goes through every single organ all the way down to our gut bacteria. So if you think about bringing this, calm, soothing hum of a tone, and bringing that through your body, you're actually sending a signal through your body of, it's okay, all is well. This too shall pass, and I can handle this. And so it's really empowering in a lot of ways too. And another thing with the tone in itself, that deep hum, they say that by humming in a deep tone, that you can decrease pain in the body by 40%. There's actual research that's proven that. So, I
wow.
mean, so many benefits just from one simple breath that we've known how to do since we were children.
Thank you for sharing that. I learned so much from this podcast. So many women, including myself, they needed to hear this reminder that slowing down is good. It's not
Uh-huh.
weakness, it's not
Uh-huh.
laziness. Movement can become the way back to ourselves instead of just another thing to conquer, right? Not everything needs
Mhm.
to be conquered on a schedule.
Yeah.
And where can everyone connect and learn with you and about your work?
So you can visit my website. It's omwayoflife.org. That's OM way of life. And you can find me on my website. I also have a newsletter, and you can actually sign up for that newsletter through my website. And really, it's finding different updates of my schedule. I offer things all over the place in the mountains, outside. I also teach at Total Health Solutions in their gym. It's a chiropractic office here near the Lakewood and Golden area. But I also do things online. So you know to find all the different up-to-date things in my schedule, the newsletter is the best place to find me. And so I also offer
Okay.
little gems of inspiration like that humming in itself, or just little tools that people can gather and re-empower themselves and remember that they have all the tools that they need actually. And so that's it's called a Moment of Drew newsletter, and you can also find me on social media underneath meditating.fox on Instagram. And you can just search my name, Teri Fox, on Facebook, and you can.
Thank you, Terry. I will share your information in the podcast link. So, folks, if this episode spoke to you, share with another woman who might need this conversation today, because sometimes healing doesn't start with doing more. Sometimes it starts with to listen to our bodies.
Mhm.
I learned so much from this conversation. We're gonna need a second round. I have so many more questions. Um, Thank you for everyone who is here for the Call Movement podcast. And I'll see you next time. Thank you, Terry. Thank you.